So, hi everybody. Today, chapter 37. Before we start 37, I want to know how we got to 37. So, in 35 and 36, there was a subject that started that 37 concludes. What's the subject? Chapter 35 spoke about the fundamental question that the Benoni could have. What's the point of this whole fight, this whole struggle that he has if he knows that he can never change it? Why should he struggle his whole life? Why does God create something that he can never change? He can never get rid of. He can never transform, right? What's the point? It could be exhausting. I try to connect. I try to create emotions. I try to feel. I want to feel love for God, but he knows he can never create that emotion. He can never get rid of the evil. Every day he wakes up, he'll always have these impulses, these animalistic desires to do selfish and natural animal instincts, and he cannot get rid of. So what's the point of the fight? And in chapter 35, the Alter Rebbe says that the struggle is one thing, but it's not the goal. To conquer, to get rid of the struggle is not the goal. What is the goal? And that's where he explains what the purpose of the world, the creation of humans on this earth, what's the purpose? Is in order for us to do the mitzvot. And he brings the example of the lamp, the oil lamp, where there's the oil, the wick, and the flame. The wick represents our body, our physical body. The oil represents the mitzvot. It fuels our body to connect to the Shekhinah, to the God, to bring down the light of Hashem, to connect to God. So yes, the struggle is going to be there no matter what, but it's not the goal. To get rid of our evil is not the goal and the purpose of our life. What is the purpose of our life? Is to create that fuel that will bring down the Shekhinah, which is Hashem, the light of Hashem, into this world. So our purpose is to bring down God into this world. And chapter 36 goes on to explain that the whole reason why Hashem created the world is for this world to be his place. Liyas dira betachtonim, to have a home where he's comfortable, where he feels himself, his true self, in this world. That's the whole purpose of creation. And how does that come about? Is through us human beings, by doing Torah and mitzvot, by bringing the light of God into this world. We are able, every time we do a mitzvah, every time we learn Torah, every time we say holy words, we bring down the light of God. We elevate this world, this dark world, this hidden world, and we bring down God into this world. That's the whole purpose. And chapter 37 now brings on the importance of the purpose of creation of the world, the final redemption, that the whole world was created for Mashiach to come. And what does that mean? What's going to happen when Mashiach comes? When Mashiach's going to come, the world is going to be in a state where God, the light of God, is revealed. Not only it's revealed, but the world itself, as we see it, is standing and God is revealed. Well, how do we say world in Hebrew? What did you say?
Olam.
Olam. Do you know what helam means? What olam, what the root word of olam means? Olam means concealed, hidden, caché. Hein?
Klipa aussi, ça voulait dire ça.
Klipa, c'est la même chose, mais olam, je parle de olam is concealed. The world, the fact that we feel, we see this world, that means God is hidden, God is concealed. it conceals the light. You said, yeah, I see God everywhere. But if you really saw God, you wouldn't be able to handle it. God is overpowering.
The Shekhinah that you're talking about.
But even more, it's still hidden. If you're able to see the world, if you're able to go after your natural desires and not constantly thinking of God, that means you don't really see God. We don't see God. The world, Olam, concealed. It's okay. The Olam conceals God. Our job is to take that light that's concealed within, to take the klipa and to elevate it. But not every klipa. So let's see. It says, chapter 37 says, Ki hagorem schar hamitzvah hi hamitzvah be'atzma. The reward of the mitzvah is doing the mitzvah itself. Okay? So this is the purpose of the world. The purpose of people might think that, when Mashiach comes, you're going to be rewarded for doing mitzvah, for being a good person. You're going to get a reward. But no, the Torah brings a pasuk, or there's a pasuk written where it says that the actual mitzvah, the doing of the mitzvah, is the reward itself. Why? What happens when you do a mitzvah?
You bring God in.
When you do a mitzvah is the commandment of God. It's the will of God. Okay? To do a mitzvah, you need to use. You need to use either etrog, the fruit that comes from a tree. You need to use tefillin, which is leather that comes from an animal.
Money,
you need
to give charity.
Exactly, money, which is gold, silver, which is okay. So you need to use stuff in order to elevate them. Okay, by taking these physical things that are part of the world, that are hidden, that when you see an etrog, when you see anything physical, you don't see God in it. But by using it for a mitzvah, you're elevating to a higher purpose. You're elevating it for God. You're bringing divine energy into it. So the reward of the mitzvah is the actual mitzvah. By doing the mitzvah, you're doing something, you're making a change in this world, that this is the reward itself. What is it? That we're going to be living in a world where godliness is revealed. So by doing the mitzvah, every little mitzvah brings us a step closer to that final redemption. Do you understand? So the actual mitzvah brings us to the goal. Not the ultimate, because there's a lot of part of the world that needs to be elevated, but it brings us a step closer. We don't need to work. It's not like someone who works in the field and then comes home and later goes to the owner and is paid. What he's paid has nothing to do with him working in the field. But someone who's cleaning his house, for example, the reward is the more he cleans his house, the more the house is clean. That's the reward itself. So that's it. An explanation of the mitzvah being the reward itself is that the more you do a mitzvah, the purer, the cleaner, the more revealed the world is. Okay? Now, how do you do, what do you do, what happens when you do a mitzvah? It has to be something that's klipas noga. What is klipas noga? Who remembers what klipas noga is?
Something that you can't elevate? No.
It's a klipa. So it is something that's concealed, but it's something that's see-through, that's a pure light that has some good in it and can be elevated. So even if it conceals God, it can still be elevated. And the Alter Rebbe brings an example. Again, I said it already, but an etrog, okay? An etrog is a fruit. You have to make sure that it's klipas noga. It could be shalosh klipas atmeos if you took the fruit before
the end of
you were allowed. The first 3 years of a tree, you're not allowed to touch the fruits. Mm-hmm. The fruits of a tree within 3 years is called orla, and you're not allowed to have any profit. You can't eat from it. You can't sell it. You can't touch it.
Let's say we go to a field and we have apples you can't eat because you don't know if they passed the 3 years. Let's say some hope.
That's a good question. I don't know if it applies to a non-Jewish field, but I don't know. That's a very good question. I know that's a very good question actually. Because the non-Jews don't keep it. So how do you
They
know
don't-
when you buy?
They don't keep it.
Well,
Why
how would
don't
they
you
know?
can eat?
I don't know.
Je
Why,
sais
why
pas.
would they keep it?
Parce que je me dis peut-être que ça prend 3 ans à un arbre fruitier pour commencer à donner des fruits.
No, we're talking about fruits that was grown within the 3 years. S'il n'y a pas de fruits, tu peux pas faire rien. On parle des fruits qu'ils ont poussés dans les premiers 3 ans. So I don't know how it works for.
Okay, so we'll ask this.
That's a good question. Yeah, I'm gonna.
Okay.
5 years, you're supposed to rest the land.
That's a different thing. So that's Shemitah. That also fruits that was grown during Shemitah is forbidden.
Exactly.
So you can't elevate those things. So anything klipas noga is anything like we saw fruits, vegetation. We saw the etrog, animals. You see the skin of a cow is used to make tefillin and mezuzah, so that is elevated. Money comes from the category of chai tzomeach, domem, where it's inanimate object that's elevated, and so those 3 levels are elevated only with permissible things. So if someone stole money, they can't give it to tzedakah. If someone has a non-kosher animal, or he even has a kosher animal but didn't do the shechita, you cannot use it for tefillin or mezuzah. It has to be, proper animal. If someone takes a fruit that was grown and either from shmita or orla, you're not going to elevate it. Things that are isur isur comes from bound. You can't take the sparks that are within it and elevate it. So it has to be from klipas noga, and it's elevated through using it and doing a mitzvah. Okay, so now we know that how we understand a little bit more how the mitzvah itself is the reward, how we transform objects, we transform the world around us when we do a mitzvah. And we bring Mashiach a little bit closer. Okay? Not only do we elevate the world around us, but there's another important aspect that we elevate. So we elevate the things we use around us, right? All the physical materials that was used to do the mitzvah. And we elevate ourselves, our limbs, our blood vessels, our energy, our body is elevated through doing the mitzvah. So what 2 aspects a person elevates when doing a mitzvah is the world around him, the physical world around him, and his physical body, his animal soul, his nefesh abamit is elevated. So here we see how the 4 elements are elevated. Chai, someach, domem, chai, etzomeach. Oh my God, let me. Yeah, domem, tzomeach, chai, and medaber, which is the 4 elements, which is inanimate objects.
What is the name?
Domem is inanimate objects. Tzomeach are plants. Chai are animals. And then medaber as humans are elevated too. And we elevate ourselves. Okay, so we see how the actual doing of a mitzvah transforms the world. No, we cannot transform the evil within us. We can't we can't create certain motions. That's not the goal. That's not the purpose of the world. It's an actual, the Alter Rebbe, all the chapters before explain to us how we work and how we can control it, all because those things distract us from doing our actual purpose. Our actual purpose is to elevate this world, elevate the physical world, and elevate our body. So I want you to realize how the Alter Rebbe started first by explaining the 2 souls, explaining how the souls work, explaining the struggles we have. Once we understand the struggle and how we can control the struggle, or how do you call maîtriser? Master the struggle. We understand that the struggle, to master the struggle, is not
the point.
The point. What's the point?
It's
to create a world that God could live in. The whole purpose of creation. Once you understand, you got rid of all the weeds, right? The weeds are all those things, those thoughts, those emotions that are trying to stop you from your actual purpose. Your purpose is doing Torah and mitzvot. Every time you do a mitzvah, whether you feel it or not, you are bringing godliness into this world.
And elevating yourself.
Elevating this world and elevating your soul, because you're using your limbs, you're using your energy, you're using your blood that's giving you energy in order to do the mitzvah. So you're elevating all that. All these things that stop you from wanting to do a mitzvah, why are they stopping you? Because they want to stop you from your purpose. They know that by you doing a mitzvah. So when you don't want to, when you feel lazy or when you're tired or when you're not in the mood, why is it? It's your body stopping you from doing its purpose.
See what? Oh, this, I can't wait to hear again the answer. 600.
Okay. Now, even more, the Alter Rebbe goes deep. This is a very, by the way, very, very deep chapter. I want to say it slow so you guys can like literally sink every part of it, sink in. Because as I'm saying it, I'm like taking it in also. Okay? So now we understand how the mitzvah is doing Torah and mitzvot is the purpose of the world. We understand how the mitzvah itself, doing the action is the actual reward, because it's like when we clean up, seeing the house clean is the actual reward. When we do a mitzvah, knowing that this mitzvah brought God into this world, elevating the physical, elevated the water, elevated even the water bottle, everything that's connected to it, we know that this is where our actions can actually make a difference. Not inside, but the actions we do. By saying the bracha, by drinking it, by using the energy that the water gave us to learn Torah. Now I'm using my energy that I ate in order to teach you or to take care of my kids. That's a mitzvah too, or whatever it is. Yeah. That is elevating the world around me. Even more so, the Alter Rebbe explains, how is it possible that the whole purpose of the world, the whole purpose is to do a mitzvah, and that the mitzvah transformed the whole entire world. So he goes on to explain something, that the Jewish people is like one neshama, one whole neshama of Israel, okay? We're like the Jewish people, the nation is kind of representing one person, one body of person, and it's divided into 600,000 neshamot.
Is it the same offshoots?
Offshoots, categories. Okay? So these 600 categories, 600,000 categories of neshamot is within one neshama, and we all come from one of those categories. Mm-hmm. Why does the Alter Rebbe bring this? It's to teach us that every action we do, we're connected really to one big soul. Okay, even if we're thousands and I don't know how many Jews in the world, or in the millions, how many in the millions? Every single individual Jewish person is connected to that one big soul that's divided into 600,000 categories. The main categories, the primary souls that were in the desert, were all offshoots from these souls. And by us doing our little action, it's shooting back to the main neshama, and that's how we affect the whole world. And these 600,000 categories each have one part of the world that they are responsible to elevate. So when you end up where you end up in the world, it's because that part of the world, those people that you encounter, those things that you encounter are meant to be elevated by you. And only you can do it. Only you can elevate it, nobody else. So when you understand that, you understand how if you don't do your mission, then the whole world is affected. Not only you, not only your part, but you're connected to the whole world. You're connected to the whole soul that's responsible to elevate the world, and everybody else is connected because there's one part that's not being elevated. There's one part that's not doing their job. So it's to dig deeper. The Alter Rebbe goes even deeper, how we're all connected. And we're all connected because we're all connected. We all have the same mission to elevate the world. We shouldn't look at a bigger picture. We should look at our small world. And by looking and changing our world, by transforming our world, we will affect the whole entire world. So really, that is the reward. The reward is knowing that every action you do, you transform the world. How? Because you're connected to a bigger picture. You're a small part of a bigger picture. And if you don't do your part, the whole picture is affected. So it's like you missed your whole purpose of changing the world. The Alter Rebbe continues to say that that by Matan Torah we had a revelation. Okay, wait, no. I want to go before that. I wanted to say something else. 1 minute.
Alors, on a fini de lire le chapter 37, ouais?
We started reading, but I'm re-reviewing. We started last week,
Ouais.
and we didn't finish it. There was so much. We didn't even finish. No, I'm
Non,
still.
parce que là, Matan Torah et tout, on l'avait pas vu.
No, we didn't.
Okay.
So that before I go to Matan Torah, I want to talk about something else. I just want to see. And the Alter Rebbe goes to say, the more energy you use to do a mitzvah, the more energy you bring down. Okay? So, because you're using more blood vessel, you're using more of your physical energy in order.
What is energy?
Energy for someone who talks like this.
So no,
or someone, the more effort, the more effort you use, the more you elevate, the more God light you bring down to this world. So it's really connected. You see how the physical and spiritual are connected hand in hand. That whatever physical, it's only through the physical that it can be elevated. And the Alter Rebbe says, I'm going to skip to the question. It should have been here. Go to the 3rd page, okay? I hope, Cheryl and Marie, you can follow because you don't have the paper, but I'm going to say it. The soul is divided into 3 levels, okay? You see the second to last question. It's divided into nefesh, ruach, and neshama. The last page, number 3. Okay, the soul has 3 levels. It has the nefesh, the ruach, and the neshama. The nefesh is the part of the soul, is the lowest part, is the one that's in this world that we are most connected with. It's connected to every time we do action, anything action, that part of the soul is elevated.
What are you answering? So, this one here?
Wait.
3 levels. Quoi?
Les 3 niveaux.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So, okay, sorry.
So there's 3, again, I'm going to repeat it because I know you don't have the papers. There's 3 parts of the souls. There's nefesh, ruach, and neshama. The nefesh energizes the action of man. So whenever you do an action, it's your nefesh that's being used or that's energizing it. Okay, all your actions are connected to the nefesh of the soul. The second level is ruach. There's really 5 levels, but here we talk about 3 levels. The second level is ruach, and this is connected to all the emotions of man. So any emotion that you feel, that you experience, this is energized through your ruach. And the third part of the soul is the neshama, and this is the intellect. It energizes the intellect of man. So whenever you use your intellect, you elevate that part of the neshama. Whenever you use your emotions, your kavana, you think deeply, you elevate that part. If you do an action, you elevate the part of the nefesh. Okay, these nefesh, ruach, and neshama are the 3 levels, 3 parts of the soul that are elevated through our actions, through our thoughts, speech, and actions. It's energized. It's not just elevated. It's energized. This gets their energy from that part. You have to know that your soul does not need to be elevated. What needs to be elevated?
The body.
The body needs to be elevated. Your soul is perfect.
She's godly.
It's godly. It's part of God. It doesn't need an elevation. A tzaddik who's perfect, who has the highest emotion, he cannot accomplish what a mitzvah could accomplish. His love means nothing. In this world, his love for God does not accomplish what his action can accomplish on his physical body, on his nefesh habamit. So a tzaddik, no matter how complete he is, has the same mission in this world than a Benoni or than a Rasha. We're all equal in that our actions is what count. You can be the highest tzaddik with love and feeling of God that's immense, but it's your action in the end. The same action you do is important for a Benoni and for a tzaddik and for a Rasha. You could make a difference by doing an action, but you can't make a difference by actually feeling something. A person can be put to trial for an action he did, but you can't put someone to trial for, he thought or he felt a certain way. You'll never see someone who felt or thought a certain way and was put... okay, sorry, we had a little spill there. See, that was an action. Here, I have napkins here. Okay, so our action is what counts, and that's what these three chapters that we've been learning were all about. How action is important, and the Alter Rebbe goes deep into explaining us why action is important and what change does it make in this world and why it's important. Okay, so we can go back to page 2. We also remember last week you asked speech. It's very important in order for you to do a mitzvah, you have to use your speech. So speech is also part of an action. So even if speech is a different category usually than action, right? There's thought, speech, and action. Those are the three garments of our soul, how we express our soul. Speech, when you move your lips, it's also an action. But speech in itself is a different category. Okay? But someone who learns Torah, who uses his lips and prays and says a bracha, that is also an action that brings godliness into this world. Okay? Now, so what happens when we elevate the world? The more we elevate klipat noga, right? This is the only klipa that we can elevate. So the more we elevate it, the less energy the shalosh klipot atmeas will have. And the more revelation we will have in this world, okay? The world will have more revelation, which explains a little bit how the world evolves, okay? What happened when Adam and Chava were created? The Shekhinah was here. God was revealed in this world. They did an avera, right? They sinned, and God left. And throughout the generation, through Avram Avinu, they brought back a little bit of the Shekhinah through Yitzchak and Yaakov, until finally Matan Torah came, and God, the revelation of God, came into this world like complete, like by creation of the world. Okay? Everyone in the world knew that God existed. They all knew Matan Torah happened. Everyone, the whole creation felt the revelation of God. 49 days later, the Jews sinned. They served the golden calf, and God left. The revelation was not the same anymore. And since then, the revelation of God has been going down. And throughout exile, even more, it was hidden even more. God's revelation was hidden even more. But again, the work that we're doing through Torah and Mitzvot, we don't see it, but it's bringing back slowly. Every little action is bringing back until the time when Mashiach comes, where the revelation of God will be just like Matan Torah, but the difference is that it's going to stay. By Matan Torah, it only stayed 49 days. When Mashiach comes, it's going to be eternal. So what is the difference between the revelation by Matan Torah and the revelation when Mashiach comes? Is that by Matan Torah, it stayed for 49 days. And when Mashiach comes, it's going to be eternal. So again, the purpose, what is the reward that the mitzvahs are doing, is bringing the revelation of God into this world. That is the actual reward of the mitzvah. And every mitzvah you do that you're responsible for in your entourage, in whatever you encounter, is bringing a little bit more light into this world. Now we know that the only thing we could elevate is klipat noga, right? Which is klipa that has some good in it, which is klipa that comes from a pure light, that's see-through. But klipa that's completely dark, that has no light, very, very little light, just enough to give it energy, how does this exist in the world? That's pure evil. Those are things that are forbidden, that are isur. Isur means that are chained, and you cannot elevate the light inside of it. What happens? How do you elevate it actually? What's going to happen to them? They get their energy from klipat noga. They use klipat noga who's connected to purity, and they get their energy from purity. But the more that klipat noga is elevated, the less energy they're going to get, because they connect to klipat noga in order to elevate themselves. But when klipat noga doesn't exist anymore, or is completely elevated, then the shalosh klipas atmeas, the 3 levels of impurity, will completely disappear because they won't have any more life source.
So when Mashiach comes, it's going to be the same? They're going to disappear?
They're going to disappear because because let's understand, what brings Mashiach?
The more mitzvot we do, the more energy we do.
What happens?
It brings God here.
Exactly. It elevates klipat noga, right?
Right.
That's what brings, the day that klipat noga is fully elevated, what's going to happen?
Je sais pas.
Mashiach's going to be here. That's the goal, right? So every time we do a mitzvah, we elevate klipat noga. Now, what gives energy to the shalosh klipas atmeas?
Klipat noga.
So if it doesn't exist anymore, what happens?
Ouais.
It doesn't exist. It has no more.
And quand klipat noga is going to be completely elevated, Mashiach comes.
Yeah, so that's what we're saying. That's how we're explaining that the mitzvah is the reward itself. Because every time you do a mitzvah, you elevate the klipat noga. Whether it's the physical things around you, or whether it's the klipa that's within you, your body, your soul, your limbs, not your soul, sorry, your animal soul. So when klipa noga stops to exist because you elevated it, it has no more energy, it has no more life source. So that's why you don't need to do anything with the things that are forbidden. You keep away from there. Like, in a way, when people say, how do we get rid of crimes or hate or all the issues, and the Rebbe stressed that a lot. Focus on doing good action. Over here, you can understand why. Because if you try to fight it, we're not supposed to fight it. By doing good actions, by elevating the klipat noga, you're taking away the life source of the evil in the world. So don't fight evil. Just focus on doing good, on elevating the things you could elevate, and you're taking away their life source.
Yeah, like living by example.
Exactly. It's like when there's a neighborhood that's full of crime, don't fight the crimes. Just bring in people, families. That's what they do. They bring in families and things, and slowly communities are turned. Yeah? One minute. New. So what were we saying? We're saying that the day all of Klipat Noga is elevated, that's when Mashiach's going to come.
Yeah.
And when it's all elevated, evil won't have any energy to get, and it will disappear. So don't fight evil. Focus on doing good. Focus on elevating the Klipat Noga. Don't try to get rid of the evil. By the way, I just realized that now as I'm teaching you that. What I just said, I just realized that instead of fighting evil, of fighting darkness, of fighting those things that are impure and hides godliness, we just have to focus on elevating the pure things, and like that, it's going to eliminate. And which explains like a little bit of light dispels a lot of darkness.
Mm-hmm.
So again, how will the three impure klipas disappear when Mashiach comes?
Elevating Klipat Noga.
When we elevate, when it has no more energy, exactly, in Klipat Noga to get energy. So by focusing on the positive, by focusing on elevating Klipat Noga, by doing mitzvot, by using our physical objects and elevating them in the right way, in the way that God tells us to, this is how we will eliminate the three levels of impure klipa. So anything that's evil, that's dark, that there's no good in it at all. The Alter Rebbe then goes and explains us how we can elevate ourselves. So we know how we can elevate the physical objects around us, but how do we elevate ourselves? He says that there's 248 positive commandments, and there's 365 negative commandments. The 248 positive commandments, when you do them, you elevate your limbs, because usually you do them with your limbs, right? For the men, they wrap their tefillin around the hands. For the women, we light Shabbat candles. We make challah. We use our limbs. We use our different parts of our body to do a mitzvah. So 248 limbs are lifted, are elevated when we do a mitzvah, the positive mitzvah. The 365 blood vessels, they represent the negative commandments, all the things we don't do. When you refrain yourself from doing a negative commandment, that blood flow that goes into your blood, that energy that gives you, that came from your food, right, was not used to do a negative commandment, so it's elevated.
I don't understand. So
your blood, when you stop yourself from doing something, right? You want to talk bad about something, you refrained yourself from doing it, you just elevated the blood, all the blood vessels, because you didn't use that energy in order to do something bad.
Your blood.
So your blood vessels are elevated. Your blood represents energy. It's what gives you life, and and that comes from all the food we eat. So you're elevating the food, all the food that was eaten also. So this is how we actually elevate ourselves, by doing positive commandments or by refraining from doing negative commandments. And by doing that, by doing Torah and Mitzvot, we create a chariot for God, okay? We spoke already about what a chariot is, a Merkava, right? Mm-hmm. We spoke how a chariot is that we have no desire, we just do what God's desire is, right? Merkava is like not a vessel,
comme un chariot.
A chariot, right. That is the leader who drives the chariot is God, and we just follow what's God's will. Okay, so by doing in Torah Mitzvah, we create this chariot for God. And a Merkava, which is a chariot, is something very powerful in Kabbalah. when you focus on your little part in the world, you can affect the bigger picture. So now when you understand how your little part of the world is connected to really a bigger picture, right? That your little part is all connected to one big soul, which is divided into 600,000 categories, you're able to affect the whole entire world. So yes, every time you do one small action, it's like you're changing the whole world. So you're changing yourself, you're elevating your limbs, your blood, you're elevating the physical things around you, but you're really affecting the whole entire world.
Can we say that?
Go ahead.
Someone that had a problem with his blood, like un problème de santé avec son sang, est-ce qu'on peut dire qu'il fait pas bien?
So, first of all, it says that any sickness, physical thing on our body is affected to spiritual, right? Is affected something spiritual, but we can't be the ones to say, oh, you have something wrong in your blood, maybe you're doing too many negative commandments. We're not ones to. Sometimes people can be affected by also, like secondhand smoker. It could be also like, we don't know if it's really from them or from someone around them too. Like, so we're not the ones to judge, but yes, it is known that our physical is affected to our spiritual. Yes. Something interesting that when I was preparing the class, I heard we're not close to Purim, but this chapter actually happens to be taught. Right? There's the Tanya. There's portions of Tanya you're supposed to read every day.
True.
Okay? So this portion actually happens to be close to Purim, right before Purim. And something I heard interesting was that when Mordechai told Esther to go save the Jewish people, right? He told her, if you don't save the people, you're going to be lost. Why? So don't worry, God wants to save the people. He will either save it through you or through somebody else. But right now, if you're put in the palace of the king, your whole purpose of creation, the whole reason why you were put, this is your portion, is in order to do this special action of saving the Jewish people. So if you don't do it, you're going to miss out the chance. Nobody else. You're going to miss out the chance on elevating yourself, elevating your entourage, your physical. If not, it's going to come through someone else. So we see how like this is something that that Mordechai knew, and that this is how we can relate. Sometimes we have opportunities. We have to realize that if God wants something to happen to in the world, it's going to happen. But are we going to be the ones to do it, or are we going to miss that opportunity? You really could miss out sometimes on a mitzvah. We have to realize how every time we have an opportunity to do something good, it's an opportunity that we can miss, and that can never come back again. So we're the only ones who lose out, because God has his mission, and he's going to, whatever needs to happen will happen. But he gives us the chance to do it. You can do it with your unique talents. You can do it with your unique way, with what your wherever you are. Are you going to take that opportunity to elevate your soul, to elevate the world, to change the world in your little way? Next. So this I thought was very powerful. This one I saw this week. You want to read some Hebrew? You said as you read, you practice. Vehu.
Alors, והוא ממש דוגמת סוד גלות השכינה, לברך ניצוצין זכו.
וכולי, right. So the Tanya, the Alter Rebbe brings, once he explained how we use our limbs and our blood vessels and all this to elevate the godly spark that was hidden within, and it's only our, how we use our that everyone's given one part of the world, and exactly to elevate. He says, and this is really the example, it's parallel example of the exile of the Shekhinah in this world. I don't know, this spoke to me. He just said it as a side, but I said I wanted to talk about it. We always talk about the Shekhinah. What's the Shekhinah? It says that whenever the Jewish people are in exile, whenever a Jewish person suffers, the Shekhinah suffers. Shekhinah is one of the highest part of God. It's a feminine aspect of God that's hidden in this world. And by understanding how our part in this world, our physical body, our physical things that come around us is only up to us in order to be revealed, we can understand how the Shekhinah comes in this world, is exiled in this world, comes down, and only us, we can redeem it, we can bring it out. It's really parallel. In a way, it's funny that he says parallel, but I feel like what we're revealing is a bit of the Shekhinah. Every time we do a mitzvah, we're revealing the Shekhinah. So how do we understand the exile of the Shekhinah? Is that just like our bodies, our neshama, are exiled within our bodies are only us who we can reveal it. The Shekhinah comes down and exiles and follows the Jewish people into exile, and through doing Torah and mitzvot, we can elevate it. Through doing whatever part, you remember we said the story of the people who were traveling, right, of this house, this big mansion that was built, and it was abandoned. No one was living in there for years until this group of Jewish people come in, and the Rambam said that house was built just for them. It was built for them to be able to pray in it and to elevate the sparks in it. So too, the Shekhinah is hidden within this world, and it's waiting for us to reveal it. And only us, we have the opportunity. Only you have the opportunity to reveal that part that belongs to you. Nobody else can do it.
Is there more mitzvah that bring more Shekhinah, or?
Well, now you brought us to the next thing. Now the Alter Rebbe says, now you can understand why all the rabbis say that tzedakah is equal to all the mitzvot in the Torah, or that the tzedakah brings the redemption closer. Why? What happens with money?
You can fix everything.
Money you use. No, he says that you can fix it.
Not true.
What happens with money? But
most
most of the time during the day, you use to focus on money. To make money, you use your brain, you use your hands, you travel to go wherever it is, you sweat to work, okay? Some people more than others, right? More physical than others, but everyone could understand that to make money requires a lot of effort.
But it's weird because money didn't exist before it was barter.
Money always existed. It doesn't just talk about physical money. It could be
because it's
anything that brings
that
you
belonged to you that you were able to.
It always exists. It said Abram was very wealthy. Okay, he had a lot of cattle. So before it was a lot of cattle. That's when we're talking about money. Yeah, like the
assets.
Exactly, whatever it is. But the tzedakah, it's talking about tzedakah is giving. You know, when someone gives food, you worked hard for the food in the field. Can you imagine how powerful that was? You worked so hard to plant, to wait, the sun was pouring down, and you worked in the field, and finally you take that and you give it to somebody else. Do you know that anyone who owns fields, they have to leave like a corner for the poor people? And when they take, and all the bundles that fall off, they're not allowed to take it. They have to leave for the poor people. Can you imagine? You're like, wait, but I worked so hard. They're not working hard for it. It's so illogical to think that what you worked hard for, you have to give.
Right.
Not everything, but a tenth. Even a tenth is a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think back then it was even harder when you think about it, because they physically worked for the land, and they had to leave a corner. They had to leave all the bundles that fell, and then they saw all the poor people at nighttime after they finished collecting. Evening time, they would come and they would take their portions. And you could be like, wait, why don't you work hard and go grow your fields like I did? I've been, But no, that's not what the Torah says. We're not here to judge. We're here to give, to do tzedakah, which is righteousness. How do we understand? What does it say? We said before that the more energy you use into something, the more light you bring. So when you use so much energy to bring in money, and it says and the Alter Rebbe says, even someone who inherited, let's say someone who inherited a big portion of money, or someone who, didn't work hard for that. Of
Yeah.
course, it's not stolen money. I'm saying someone who
Yeah.
rightfully got that money, they could take that money
And
use it for
themselves.
their own things. Okay, so it brings money, brings a lot of things. You can go and you can do so many things. So the value of money is huge. Okay, so in the level of klipat noga, it's a very powerful klipat noga, but it's not evil. It's klipat noga, and when you take this klipat noga and you give tzedakah, you go and you give it to someone else, it brings redemption. You can understand now how it's equal if you take tzedakah on one side of the balance and you take all the mitzvot on the other side of the balance, tzedakah is going to be equal to it. Because the energy that you used to bring the money, or that you could use to use that money, is very great. So it brings a very great light into the world.
And our friend Berel Salomon,
Yes.
he said that the only thing that we can test God on is tzedakah. And he uses the word test.
Yeah, it says.
Like, listen, I'm going to give that amount of money. Like, show me how you're going to give it back. Et il te dit, on a le droit de tester Dieu sur une et unique chose.
Yeah.
Tzedakah.
And it's the only thing, because you're not allowed to test God. You can't say only if this,
Mais
if
même
I'll do a
tzedakah, je
mitzvah.
trouvais ça un peu effronté, but it's true. It's written.
But it says that tzedakah brings righteousness. It brings a huge light into this world, and it brings Mashiach closer. And it's interesting when you think about it, the Rebbe, I keep on bringing back to the Rebbe because he lived by the Tanya. He, out of everything to connect people was to give out
dollar.
Sorry about that. So what did the Rebbe choose to connect to people? And it cost him a lot of money. Imagine he saw millions and millions of people, Jews and non-Jews. He chose to give them money, and he would tell them, give it to tzedakah. Whoever got the money, what they would do is they would keep the dollar from the Rebbe, and they would give another dollar so they can keep. But he gave it, not here's money. He gave it, he said, go give tzedakah, because he understood how every action of tzedakah is bringing the geula closer, how powerful tzedakah is, how the energy that goes into money, that same energy, it's a huge energy, that same energy can be elevated for God.
Mm-hmm.
So that klipat noga is a huge energy, right? The whole, especially New York, it's all about money. The dollar is like very powerful, right? So that same power, it's klipat noga, it's neutral. If it's taken and used for a good thing, it's as powerful, but in a godly way.
Where he got this money from? Déjà à l'époque, il y avait des campagnes ou quelque chose comme
No.
ça?
No, first of all, the Rebbe had money. I mean, I think people gave him all the time, but he wouldn't keep it. No, first of all, he was an engineer. He would get, he like,
did he work
before he was Rebbe, he worked. He like had him. So I can't tell you the detail of what he did, but he had a few. So I think after they get some money, right? Anyway, was he wealthy? I don't know. People gave him tons of money. What did he do with his money? Instead of using it for himself, he gave it for others.
For sure.
So I don't know. I can't tell you where exactly the money came from. No, he didn't. He didn't spend anything on himself.
He still continues to do so.
What?
He still continues.
Through his shluchim, exactly.
Still continues, because even during certain holidays, from my understanding, it's still very open. Like Sukkot, it's very open.
Over there, yeah. So I don't know who does it, how they run it, but yeah, there's people who sponsor.
You can still, go and
exactly
have a feast every day.
So why does tzedakah equal to all the mitzvahs? Because the energy that's put into money is so big that when you use that money and you elevate it for godliness, the energy is even bigger. Okay? So it's very interesting. We did already nefesh, ruach, neshama, the 3 levels. The nefesh is energizes any action we do. The ruach energizes any feelings we feel. And the neshama energizes any intellect, anything from intellect that we use. And the last part is a little bit longer, so we're going to leave it to next week. We're going to conclude how. Yeah, but it's a big subject. Yeah, it's a big subject. So I just want to conclude. I want you to share. I know I did it last week for the first time, but you have to know that Tanya is very practical. It's here to teach us something very practical. What is something practical you learned from this week?
I have to get done very slowly.
To give tzedakah.
To give tzedakah. Very good. What about,
Action.
look, they ran away.
Oh non, peut-être parce qu'il est déjà une heure.
Yeah, they probably had to go. Okay. Thank you guys for
How about
listening.
you?
We'll see you next week.